Hello and welcome into Illini Drive. Isaac Trotter joined alongside Alec, Busse. Eli Schuster is in studio, and then Tati Perry behind the desk. Tati, how you doing?
A little wet, but I'm living.
Okay, doing well. We've got a good show planned for you today. We're going to talk a little bit of Illinois spring ball. It's a huge weekend for the Illini. They'll have about a plethora of visitors this weekend, including some big-time names. About 24, 25 guys should be on campus this weekend to take a look at Illinois. They will have an open practice on Saturday. That'll be April 6th. That practice will get started at 2:30. The doors will open to Memorial Stadium at 2. You can sit on the east side and come in and take a first look at this Illinois football team. So we'll break down what this kind of means for Lovie Smith and his staff, a little bit of kind of reaction of what's happened with spring football. Also, we want to talk a little bit more March Madness. The Final Four is this weekend. That'll be on Saturday. Texas Tech, Michigan State, Virginia, and Auburn, the Final Four teams in there, and we'll kind of make our predictions, because next time we'll be on the show will kind of be it. So make our predictions, what we're looking for, what are the biggest storylines. Then we're also going to get into some baseball. Eli is our resident Cubs expert. Alec and I are both Cardinal fans, and it's been a really interesting time in the NL Central. The Cubs have had a lot of issues with that bullpen, and we talked last Thursday what the biggest question mark around the Cubs was, and Alec had plenty of them. And my biggest one was, I think the bullpen's going to be the issue, and the bullpen has definitely not been up to par in the early going. But let's start with some Illinois football. They will have this weekend some big-time recruits on campus. Mookie Cooper, Reggie Love, A.J. Henning, all those guys are 3-star or 4-star recruits. We're kind of in the middle of spring ball right now. And Eli, as you kind of look at this spring ball, we're kind of approaching year 4 of Lovie Smith. When you look at this, how important is this spring for Illinois to get going, and how important is this weekend with all of these recruits in the class of 2020?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's important. I think that, spring ball is just a time to get a good feel of not what you have, but I'd say get a good feel among everyone on the team. I mean, obviously you have some guys that you're waiting to get on campus. You're waiting to get Isaiah Williams there. You want him, that's kind of the biggest piece you're waiting for. But this is a great opportunity during spring ball to get all your, to get that team camaraderie up. I mean, that is really what it's about. Sure, you could talk about conditioning and, wanting to get guys' bodies right. But at the end of the day, your full team isn't there yet. You don't know exactly what you're going to look like. That's what summer's for. When you get to summer, that's when that becomes really important. This, for me, spring ball's always been more about, okay, let's get a good feeling. Let's, make sure that everyone's on the same page. Make sure everybody knows what they're doing. And I think, with this Lovie Smith team, he's got a full squad out there. He's got his biggest roster, that he's been able to have so far this year. And, from everything that's been going on, it's been good. He seems to really be enjoying himself so far this spring ball. I know he's been having a good time. He's been taking more of that hands-on approach. This is the first spring ball that he's been doing that, because he is, this defensive coordinator now for this team. And so he's been having more of a hands-on approach. I know that's been something he's enjoying. So, it seems like there's good vibes all around, right? I think that's the biggest thing. Last year's spring ball, there was a lot of question marks. And I think, the biggest question mark that remains right now for this team is just, okay, who's going to be at that QB position? But other than that, sure, there's a lot of questions we might have as analyzing this team and things like that you can come up with. But for the most part, this team's in one of the best situations it's been in a while. And I think people are feeling good. And because of that, it's going to be, at the end of the day, a successful spring ball. And it's good to see everybody in a decently good mood. And it seems like Lovie's especially in a good mood.
Alec, you've been at practice for a couple days. I've been at every single practice so far this spring. And it's also one of these big storylines is how these new coaches kind of fit in. And Miles Smith hadn't been able to talk to the media the first 5 days of practice. He was able to talk with me on Wednesday, had some good stuff to say, was really insightful. So I think getting him out there more often. But you look at what Mike Bellamy's done. You talked to him a little bit, right? We've seen what Bob McClain has added at the offensive line coach. I think Donato Hudson's so full of energy. What's your biggest takeaway of these new coaches that are coming into the mix here?
Yeah, you mentioned that I talked to Coach Hudson. For those of you guys who don't know, he's DB's. I really liked the energy he brought. I was over there watching him and listening to him, working with the defensive backs, who's obviously one of the bigger questions. I know, Eli, you said the quarterback position is the biggest question, but I would say defensive backs is probably the second biggest question that this team has. From what I saw, he's definitely got a lot of energy. I know I spoke with you at practice about that too, and I think the defensive backs just love that. Defensive backs tend to be the guys who are celebrating the most, even after the smallest plays, because it is such a tough defensive position to play, and I think they feed off of his energy. I read your article that you wrote on Inquirer about how how hard he is on them, but they really feed off of that. And I talked to Coach Bellamy, and I've also talked to Rayvon Bonner, and Rayvon just raved about Coach Bellamy and how he loves learning from someone who played here for 4 years, someone who had, in all retrospect, a pretty good career here.
He was an All-American.
Yeah, he was a really good player. So I know the running backs and the defensive backs love their new coaches. And I like how Coach Bellamy, I've noticed this, and I don't know if you have, he's really cycling guys through getting that second string rep behind Reggie Corbin, whether it's Dre Brown, Rayvon Bonner, or
Jakari Norwood's been in the mix.
Norwood.
Kenyon Sims has some opportunities there at running back.
Yeah, and I'm really interested to see if Norwood gets any opportunities going into this year. You know, he's one of the faster guys on the team, and they need help at the receiver position. Maybe throw him in the slot a couple plays and see what he can do. But overall, I'm liking the rotation that Bellamy's brought to the running back position.
Yeah, it feels like these 4 new coaches, I think you know for sure what you have in 3 of them. Bob McLean has been awesome for this team on the recruiting trail. He's been getting out and attacking on the recruiting trail. That's something that Luke Butkus never really wanted to do. And now Luke moves to the Green Bay Packers as the assistant offensive line coach. And McLean has been getting right to work, and he'll have Kevin Tyler, Kevo Wesley, Jalen St. John, Marcus Harper, and Javantez Spraggins all on campus this weekend as offensive linemen that you really have to watch out for. Jalen St. John played with Isaiah Williams and Shaman Cooper down at Trinity. He's a high 3-star prospect, has a chance to be a 4-star prospect when it's all said and done, and Illinois feels like they have a good chance there. And McLean's impact on the recruiting trail has been really good. But also his impact on the field is really, I've thought, been positive through the first week or so of spring ball just because he's such a tactician, right? And he's putting these guys in the right spot, and this is an offensive line that returns 4 starters in Alex Palczewski, Kendrick Green, Doug Kramer, and Vidarian Lowe. You add an Alabama transfer and Richie Pettibon. It's a first crew that looks really good. McLean's putting them in the right spots.
Yeah, no, I haven't paid as much attention to offensive line as I have other positions just because of how well they performed last year and really exceeded everyone's expectations.
Yeah.
But from everything I've seen and the very few bits I've watched, they seem to be a really close group. And it seems like they have brought Richie in, and he just seems to fit them.
He fits what Illinois wants.
He fits them better than I thought he would have in the first 2 practices that I've watched. And I think he's going to bring to them a lot. I think that even though he never started at Alabama, I think the experience that he got there, the practicing there, the intensity, the winning culture that Alabama has, I think that could be huge for this Illinois locker room and a really crucial year where maybe you can find a 6th win late in the year if they're in that position.
We all talk about how this in year 4, the goal is to get 6 wins. You got to get there somehow, some way. And that 2-year extension that Lovie Smith signed this offseason, I really don't think it means as much, right? This was just a kind of an eye candy to try to attract some good coaches to keep some of your talent, which you did. You got in these big recruits, but really, ultimately, if Lovie Smith goes 4-8 this year or 3-9, the defense is still 127th in the country when it's all said and done, he's probably getting fired, and that's just the reality of the situation we're in. But I feel like spring ball is always easy to get a lot of optimism, Eli, but when you look at this roster, there's still a lot of holes, and I think you can go no farther than just wide receiver, and you see a situation where Ricky Smalling's getting some reps, but then you have Donnie Navarro, who's a walk-on, and Caleb Reams also getting a start, the first-team reps there at wide receiver. How concerning is that? If you're looking through this roster, is wide receiver the number one concern for you, or is there other places too? Because I feel like there's a plenty of concerns with this team.
Yeah, I think there's several, and you know, like I said, of course, there's this is going to be an optimistic point of the year. I mean, like I brought up, like I brought up at the to start off this conversation, it's all about everyone feeling good, everyone loving the team,
getting the best shape of their life.
Bodies by Lou, everybody's doing their fun thing, and I remember, and I think it was Alec, I think I was talking about this with you yesterday when you brought up Lovey and how he's been looking like he's been having a lot of fun, or
I think I mentioned that he's been really sociable in his interviews, kind of joking around.
And one thing I said to you was, seeing this from experience in the past, I'm like, well, it's because the further away from the season we are, the happier and more outgoing and more fun Lovey's going to be in his interviews, and I think that goes for a lot of people.
I will
on the
say
team.
Though, he wasn't quite that different. He's different than he was last spring.
Sure, but I think regardless, the further you are away from the season, the more he's going to be upbeat. I mean, we've seen it. I think we did see it last year. I mean, we can say obviously he's different because he's got more of his guys there. because he's got a bigger team there to deal with. Obviously, we know he's having fun with the defensive coordinator work. But regardless, when you're further away from the season, he's going to be optimistic. He's going to be fun. When summer hits, early parts of this over summer and training camp, he's having fun. He's pretty good. Then as the season nears, he starts buckling down a little bit more. It happens in the film room, and it happens with the media. That's just the way it works if you're a coach. So it's great to see him having that fun. But at some point or another, you bring up these holes, right? These holes are going to have to be addressed by him, and they're going to have to be addressed by the rest of the coaching staff. And you're not going to see him heavily addressed right now during this springtime, but it's wide receivers that are a big issue. I think linebacker is a question mark, right now. You don't know exactly what we're getting at that position. Regardless of what you think of how Delshon Phillips, was for you, that's still a pretty big piece. He's a good player.
There's a reason why he put up huge numbers at his combine and has a chance to get drafted.
Yeah, there's a chance he gets drafted 6th, 7th round.
For sure. He was always one of my favorite defensive players. I thought last year, I really liked what I got from him every game. I thought he did a really good job. But, there's question marks there about who's going to fill up that veteran spot on the defense, who's going to, be that guy for you. And on offense, it is wide receivers. I mean, that's the question mark. At the end of the day, I think you could trust your quarterback position. You could say, okay, you're either going to get Isaiah or you're going to get MJ.
Yeah.
And I think for the most part, fans out there and people looking at this team, they can trust MJ for the most part right now. Yes, there's definitely things we're curious to see from him, but at the end of the day, you could say if MJ starts the first game, I'm feeling okay.
Right.
And then at your running back position, Reggie Corbin's headlining that. You got some good depth there. That's probably the best depth you have on the team.
That's the best position.
You feel great. Your offensive line, perks up. Last year, you really liked what you saw from them. Now you have wide receivers. You don't know what you're going to get from them.
Mm-hmm.
Ricky Smalling is the only guy that you think could have been a constant throughout the past couple of years, and he wasn't last year. He was not there. You didn't see the spark from him you thought you would see in his sophomore campaign. And now you don't really have anyone to latch onto and say, oh, I can trust this guy. Every other position you have somewhere you go like, well, at least I could trust that guy.
You can trust Bobby Roundtree. You can trust.
At every position, there's someone you could say, yeah, I could trust that guy. And actually, at every position, there's probably a couple guys you could say, all right, I at least trust that guy.
And that's a good example with running back.
Exactly. But wide receiver is the number one position right now where there's not, I don't think, one name that you could say right now, yeah, that guy, I trust that guy, I believe in. Maybe if they still had like an A.D. Miller, you could go that route, right? But they don't have that. And so I think that's the biggest concern. It's something that's definitely going to have to be addressed. Sooner than later, it'd be great if it was in spring, but sooner than later, you need to find the guy you can trust and say, all right, this is the starting point. This is going to be the guy. Hopefully that's Ricky. I think, that is going to be Ricky, but they don't have that right now.
Deshaun Brissett is going to enter in the summer. You think that he can be an impact wide receiver for you?
Yeah, but that's another thing you think. Like, we don't have him right now on the team.
Yeah, right. And we've had Illinois has had two straight wide receivers that have committed but then don't show up. I think Brissett's a slightly different case than Miller and Jeff Thomas. Another guy to watch is Trevon Sidley, a 4-star, 5-star recruit out of USC. Illinois is going to get him on campus for a visit within the next 10 to 14 days. Another thing to watch if you're Illinois football, though, is Luke Ford. And Indiana's quarterback, there was news today that Indiana's quarterback was granted a waiver of eligibility right away. We've seen it with Justin Fields a couple times. We saw it with Tate Martell down in Miami, immediately eligible. Illinois thinks that they're going to be able to get the news on Luke within the next 7 to 8 days.
If they don't, next week. I mean, if they don't, it's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
If we're going to be honest, they 100% he deserves it. He's got a better reason than probably both Fields and Martell combined. Yes. So, him being here, it makes a lot of sense. And if he doesn't get it, then that's going to be one of the times I agree with like Illinois Twitter when they go have an uproar and be mad. That's probably one of the times I'll agree with them. But for the most part, that you have to be really upset if he doesn't get that waiver. And I think Illinois right now, they're playing and practicing like he's going to get it.
Well, yeah, he's getting the first team reps at tight end. And the thing that Illinois has done in this case is they hired a lawyer and they waited. And those two things have paid off. Kids that hired a lawyer, Justin Fields hired a lawyer, that worked. He got his eligibility. Tate Martell hired a lawyer, he got his eligibility. So you're kind of seeing the MO. And Illinois waited a little bit, saw what some of these other cases were, and now I think the number is about 85% of kids that have transferred this year have gotten eligibility to play right away. If Luke Ford's not in that top 15, or is not in that 85%, is one of those 15% that doesn't get it, it'll be really, really hard news because you look through practice right now and you look at him and go, wow, that's a dude. 6'5", 235, 40 pounds. He's probably Illinois' best pass catcher on the roster right now.
Leonardo, it's really funny. You mentioned his size. Isaac, I turned to you Tuesday. It would have
Yes.
been Tuesday. The moment we got onto the field and he caught a ball right in front of us in the end zone, I will go to you. Wow, he's huge. Not very many people make me feel small. I'm
Right.
6'3".
Right.
He makes me feel really small.
He is listed at 6'6" and 250, and he is all of that.
Yeah, he's a huge guy, and his physicality is unbelievable. I watched the tight ends a little bit yesterday, and very few people just blow me away with their physicality in practice with the tackling dummies. What do you want to call them?
Tackling dummies, just like that.
He's really physical. He's got a great ability to catch the football, and that's something that they're going to need this year because, like Eli mentioned, they don't have that surefire receiver that they can really count on, even if they think it can be Ricky.
He hasn't proven it.
Yeah,
he had a sophomore slump last year.
And Ford could be their best pass catcher. You put him at
He
the
is
tight
right
end.
now. Yeah.
And you know what's even better about him? He's a better blocker than he is a catcher.
Yeah.
And that's kind of impressive, too, because last year you saw with Austin Roberts, he would switch onto the field and Illinois would kind of tip off the defense of saying, okay, Roberts is in at tight end, they're going to run the football. Then when Daniel Barker got in, the freshman from Florida, he's definitely much more the pass catcher. So that kind of flips. Well, now if Ford's eligible, you won't have to flip because he can stay on the field 100% of the time.
And it's really going to benefit, I think, Reggie Corbin because now he's got almost a sixth offensive lineman or a seventh offensive lineman, depending on the package that they're running on the field, that Reggie Corbin's got another blocker. I mean, Ricky Smalling's a pretty good blocker outside,
Very
too.
good.
And that's going to give Reggie the opportunity to break those long runs that he did last year, those 60, 70, 80-yard runs again, because he does have the speed to do that, and he has the agility to break a tackle or two in that first level of the defense. And I think it helps Reggie Corbin as much as it does the quarterback position, whether that's MJ Rivers, Isaiah Williams, or somehow Matt Robinson if he looks great.
Well, you know what else it helps too is at least clear up some of this fog at the wide receiver position as well, because it takes off some of the pressure of having these guys have to go there. If you can have Ford, playing for you at that tight end position, you know he's going to be reliable out of the bat. You also feel better about MJ being out there because he's got someone to throw to, and
they have
then
some
it takes
chemistry too. Early.
Sure, 100%, and it makes sense because MJ doesn't have anyone else to really throw to right now, and he's going to go after Ford. Ford's a big body. MJ, we saw last year, he's the type of guy that he's not going to wow you with his arm, right? MJ, he's got good accuracy, but he's not going to sling it so far that it's going crazy for you. So he's got a perfect arm and accuracy to connect with the tight end, and when you have a good one, that's definitely going to show with Ford. But it takes some pressure off these wide receivers, and I think that that's going to open up an opportunity for someone like Dominique Stampley, to have little moments, or if the defense has to pay a little bit more attention to Luke Ford, then Dominique Stampley is quick enough to find some open space and be out there. So it just helps open up the entire offense when he's out there, and it also helps make a case for why MJ is a great in a great spot to be the starting quarterback.
Well,
for your team.
I mean, it just gives you a piece you didn't have, right? Illinois didn't have a guy like this. Illinois needed someone like this, and they went out and got him. And hey, maybe your guy Trenard Davis could have a breakout year. We all know our feelings.
He did
about
last year.
Trenard
Last
Davis
year
on
was
this show.
last year's the peak of his
29
talents.
catches for 300 yards and averaging 9 yards a catch.
No, we can't assume that he's going to be doing.
Hey, he had a
more than
good
that.
touchdown pass against Penn State. That was
Good
impressive.
for him.
That was the most impressive thing.
It's good for him, yeah.
We're not big fans of Trenard Davis. Before we take our first time out here on the show, Alec, you're going to practice a couple times. I'm kind of around the team a lot. Eli, you know this team as good as any. What are your expectations win-wise for this team next year? You look at this roster right now, adding the freshmen that you think you're going to add. Say they don't add any more transfers. Say the wide receivers that they have right now are Ricky Smalling, Deshaun Brissett, and Dominic Stampley are your starters. You have MJ under center or Isaiah. You add these freshmen to the mix. Is this a 6-win team?
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I can go first. I look at it as a borderline 6-win team. I think it's going to be fairly tough. I think they're going to beat Akron. They should beat UConn.
They have to beat
UConn. If they are not 2-0 after their first 2 weeks, they're not going to a bowl game.
Right.
Eastern Michigan's going to be tough. They're always pretty good. Nebraska's going to be around the top 25, I would say, earlier in the year.
They're the sexy pick in the Big Ten to make that big run.
Yeah,
they've
got a lot
team.
of speed, and Scott Frost is a good coach. Going up to Minnesota doesn't ever work well for Illinois. I feel like it's a really tough place to play, although it is earlier in the year, so it won't be negative 400 degrees there.
And you play inside.
Yeah, no, they're outdoor.
Oh, they're outdoor.
They're outdoor,
You're right.
Michigan at home, they're going to lose, I would expect. Wisconsin, they're probably going to lose. Purdue on the road, maybe.
They killed you by 39 last year.
Maybe. Like, Purdue's that, one pick every year. It's like,
Right.
oh, well, maybe we can beat Purdue.
Right.
Rutgers, they have to beat Rutgers. I'd feel better about Michigan State if they're at home against Michigan State, but they're on the road, so that's tough. I can't even remember the last time Illinois went to Michigan State.
So if you had to go your gut, is this what are you going record-wise?
It comes down to Northwestern and Iowa for me. I'm thinking 5-7, and I think Lovey still has a job going into 2020.
What about you, Eli?
I think so. The question is, can this be a 6-win team? Yes,
Yeah.
I think they can be. Do I think they can be anything more than that? No, I think that they could be
That's their
exactly
ceiling.
a 6-win team. And I think the reasoning of that is because I think you have to assume that this defense gets better, and they have some playmakers. I think having Eifler, at that linebacker position is really big for you. So I think you have to assume the defense get better. With that being said, that automatically should give you another win. Just at least one more win. And so
Because the defense gave away so much
yes,
for you. You can't be
and-
126th and imagine to win.
And I also
games.
think this offense is going to be better because I think that while think what you will about how AJ Bush did, think about, what he was able to give you. I think that you have more options now on this offense this year. Yes, the wide receiver position is weak, but you have two quarterbacks. If we're assuming Isaiah's going to be in the mix of things, I think personally that it's going to be MJ starting and Isaiah's going to be in packages. But both of these guys can throw the football, and you could trust them to throw the football, and I think that opens things up a little bit. Also, you're going to have a reliable tight end if we're assuming Luke Ford's going to be there, which helps a lot
Your
because
offensive
last year
line's
you
better
did not
this
have
year than it
someone.
was last
Your
year.
offensive line is better. Also, this year it's not like, oh wow, look at Reggie Corbin. It's
Right.
okay. This is Reggie Corbin. He is a legitimate top Big Ten running back. Heading into the season. So I think your ceiling is 6 wins. With that being said, I think the safest pick is probably a 5-7 team. I think that's the safest pick to go here. And I do believe if they're 5-7, Lovey, probably, he'll be there the next year. But I do think this team can get to 6. I think it's very possible. But all it takes is one injury or something. Still, with this team, is still being at the roster size they are.
Right.
It still only takes one injury to set them back. But I think the defense, the improvement there, should be enough to give them another, 2 wins to get them.
I think I agree with both of you. I'm still thinking 5-7. If they're able to go out and add a couple of these USC transfers, I think that would kind of get me over the hump. Khalil Tate's still very much of a possibility for Illinois. If that happens, I would definitely then go on board with being a 6-6 team, or maybe even 7-5. So it'll be interesting. There are a lot of moving pieces, but right now I think it is a 5-win team. They're clearly better, and if you want to go out and watch them, you can this weekend on Saturday, April 6th. They will have an open practice at 2:30. Usually that means that they will do a lot of scrimmaging, so get a good look at some of these guys. So we're going to take our first time out. When we get back, let's dig into some baseball. It's Cardinals and Cubs. They both have their flaws. They're both really, really good teams, though. And we'll break that down when we come back on WPGU 107.1. Welcome back to Illini Drive. Isaac Trotter, Eli Schuster, Alec Busse, and Tati Perry. Tati, everything good?
Pretty great.
Awesome. All right, we spent that first longer segment talking a lot of Illinois football. Should be an interesting season again. If you want to go out and watch them, you can watch them this Saturday at 2:30. They will be having an open practice free to the public. Also, a week from Saturday will be their spring game. So plenty of opportunities to watch this team and get a good look at Lovie Smith's squad as they go into a really important year 4. But we're going to pivot and talk a little bit of baseball. The Cardinals and the Cubs have been interesting starts for both of these teams. The Cardinals are coming off a 2-game sweep of Pittsburgh. They were losing in both of those games heading into the 7th inning, but somehow find a way to scrape out a win thanks to Pittsburgh's pretty horrendous bullpen. But they get a chance to get that done. They win last night 5-4. Colton Wong had a big hit in the 10th inning. He tripled Tyler O'Neill. Also got some opportunities. So want to break them down, but also the Cubs have to be the first thing we go to. The Cubs are 1-4. Their bullpen blows up yet again last night. They give up 4 runs late to let the Braves beat them 6-4. Eli, we talked about a week ago how the Cubs bullpen was the issue, and for them to come out and do this has sent fans into like they're incensed now. They're just screaming, "Bring Kimbrel!" And I go, I don't know if that one guy fixes all of your problems, especially if he wants still 3 or 4 years. How do you fix this bullpen? Right? What would you do? What are the steps that you take to try to get this bullpen right?
I probably right now I let him settle in. That's about it. I don't think that you're still in the first really week of the season.
Oh wait, they've only played 5 games.
Can we
Okay,
also keep?
right.
I mean, one thing I want to keep in mind that everyone needs to keep in mind is, I mean, this team hasn't even had their opening day yet. Like, can we please remember
Home
that?
opener?
Well, yeah, but technically it's their opening, like their opening day at home. I mean, they haven't even had it yet, and that's kind of the real starting mark every year for a team. They haven't played in Wrigley yet. Fans haven't gone and seen them play in Wrigley. They haven't had that feeling of being home. For teams, it really feels like the season starts when you're able to, be in your own building and have that first series at home. So I think everyone's blowing this way out of proportion. I almost went on a mute fest last night and muted everybody on Twitter that I follow that's just complaining, over and over again about this team, because I sit there and I go, calm down. I mean, sure, you can complain about the bullpen. I mean, that's what I complained about during this offseason. That's what I said was the biggest issue. Yes, you're seeing it early on. It makes sense, but I mean, you're 1-4. I mean, you've played 5 games, and right now you're playing your 6th game. And I think what they did today was they talked a lot with Madden and with the players and before the game, and what they said today was just, hey, we're trying to do too much right now, because our expectations during spring training, what we said was like, oh, well, we got to play every single game, like, the season.
Every game matters, right?
Yeah, every game matters, things like that. They're not heading into the season relaxed. They're heading in with. And also, I kind of blame some of the Cubs fans out there. I blame a lot, like a decent amount of Cubs fans out there who put this expectation on, like, I can't believe you did that last year.
Right.
Like, how dare you? Like, what's wrong? You didn't get to the NLCS? You're ridiculous. And it's just
only won 95
They won
games?
95 games in arguably, the best division in baseball.
Yes.
And so everyone needs to just kind of calm down. Also, the Brewers had a remarkable year last year. I know you might don't want to accept, say, hey, good job, Brewers, but do it. Say, like, hey, Brewers, you did pretty good last
Christian
year.
Yelich, you're really good.
Yeah, they had the MVP. We had the second place guy, for MVP with Javi Baez. So you sit there, and it's just a situation where everyone's blowing this way out of proportion. You need to calm down. You could be mad at the bullpen, sure. You could be concerned about it. I think they make moves later on in the season for it, just like good teams do. I think that's what they do. They make some trades. They get the right guys. I think if you sign Kimbrel, it wouldn't be for a month. I talked about this, Isaac, with you the other day. I think that's how most teams are approaching this. Unless like a team really swoops in last second. Most teams say, we're waiting a month, because then you let your team settle in. You really see what you have. I think that this bullpen has some decent pieces to it. I really like Randy Rosario. I think that he's a really good piece for you. I think Cishek is a good piece for you. I mean, everybody usually likes him. I think that there's several guys. I think C.J. Edwards is not going to be
C.J. Edwards is not going to have a 27 ERA for the whole year.
No, he's not. He's got to play pretty well. Pedro Strop, he blew a game for you. Guess what? You Cubs fans have loved him forever. Don't turn on him because he blew a game against the Rangers during the first 3 games of the season for you. So overall, let this bullpen settle in. And I think they will. Sure, if maybe in 2 weeks from now they're like 1-18, all right, come at me. And then we'll talk about it. But otherwise, let's calm down, give this bullpen a chance to settle in, and I think everything's going to be all right.
Yeah, Eli, I echo your opinions, and so does Jed Hoyer and Theo Epstein. But just to kind of put into perspective how bad their bullpen has been through this first week of the season, they have 35 walks. Well, this is their whole pitching staff, actually. 35 walks. It's the second most in Major League Baseball. A 6.75 ERA, also the second highest in baseball. They've struck out just 44 guys, which equates to about like 8.8 per 9. They have 2.01 whip.
Yeah.
They
have 2 guys on base every inning. That's horrible.
Can I give this is one response to, and this is good. I mean, great, throw stats out there. But this is my one response to like everything going on in baseball right now. You're like top 4 World Series favorites, right? Except for like the Dodgers or whatever. But like 4, you're top 5 World Series favorites? Red Sox, Astros, Cubs, and Yankees, right? All have like 1 win. So let's calm down.
I mean, Seattle's 7-1. Minnesota is 4-1 this year.
Also, Yankees are dropping a series to the Orioles,
and that's why I'm saying, like, I agree with you. Everyone just needs to relax, but just to put into perspective how bad it is. Their opponent's batting average is 293.
Yeah, I mean the Cubs bullpen has pitched 17 innings this year and allowed 17 runs. That's not going to be ideal anytime you do that. So.
Yeah, but also I think it's great. We'll say, hey, look at this. This is how bad they've been.
Right.
But also, I mean, this is a small sample size.
Correct.
Like there's a reason that even with these stats that I go, I'm not very concerned. I say, yeah, it's a rough start. But is it anything more than that? Not yet.
There's one other point that I'd like to make, and it's Yu Darvish.
It's a big start for him tonight.
It's a huge start for him tonight. He had 7 walks in his first appearance, and he only got through 2 innings, right, Eli? Was it
Right.
a flat 2?
Yeah, he only got 2. I think it was 2.2.
Whatever. It was a horrible start.
Yeah.
He has to pitch well tonight, I think, for his sake. Like,
Just his mentality, right?
Yeah,
His
like,
mental makeup.
people think he has the yips.
I
Like,
think
people seriously think he has the yips.
I wouldn't call it the yips only because he was injured last year, so I do think that that plays a role into it. And two, he did admit that during the Rangers series, he said, "Yeah, I was in my own head." And I mean, if we're being honest, that's his first start since
The injury.
April of last year. And also, this is only his second season with a Cubs team.
Right.
And he may have had some emotions going back to Texas.
Well, that's exactly what he said after the game. He's like, I mean, and I think Lester stood by him and other guys stood by him and said, yeah, I mean, he admitted, he said, it got to me out there, like being back here, I felt like the expectations were really high. It was my first start of a regular season again after coming off this injury, and it got to me and I couldn't get my control together. And, some people attack him out there. I see on social media and on different radio shows that people have, and they say, oh, well, you're being a baby. Like, get out there, stop. What are we supposed to do, baby you and things like that? Like, really, you're going to yell at this man for this? Like, this guy's gone through a lot. This guy's gone through a decent amount. And so he was one of the best pitchers of baseball, a Cy Young winner, winning pitcher. And then he goes through an injury. He's with a new team. Don't go attack this guy.
No.
There's no reason to. Not yet.
Right.
If he's like really terrible this season, sure, then we could be like, all right, this is it. But at the end of the day, this guy's still got to get back on his feet.
Well, and he's off to a good start tonight. The Cubs and the Braves are underway. He pitched a clean first inning, only 14 pitches. He had a 1 walk to Freddie Freeman, but he was able to get out of the inning with unscathed, hasn't allowed a hit yet. So good start for Darvish. Let's move to the Cardinals a little bit. Cardinals have a little bit of a series where they go to Milwaukee, just run into the buzzsaw that is Christian Yelich. He hits 4 home runs in the first 4 days.
And Josh Hader.
Right. And then they figure it out a little bit in Pittsburgh late and find a way to win ugly twice in a row. I feel good about where they're at, right? They have the home opener tomorrow. I feel fine. This is good. 3-3 on this road trip is good. I think Colton Wong's been awesome. Mm-hmm. Goldschmidt's done what he needs to do. Mm-hmm. Harrison Bader hits a big home run the other day, and now you're figuring it out. I think my only complaint, I got a couple. My only complaint is, one, Marcell Ozuna's not been very good. Now he has a little bit of a hip injury or side injury. How much does that linger? 2, Dexter Fowler, the talk about how he's feeling so good and how his exit velocity is so much higher, it hasn't translated in the first 6 games. Like, you can't keep playing Jose Martinez off the bench. Anything else that sticks out to you from this first week of baseball?
Yeah, on the offensive side, the strikeout total is insane.
A little much.
They strike out a lot. Like, you just go through their lineup and you can just pick out strikeouts. Like, you can pick out Goldschmidt's got a good amount already. He already has 10. DeYoung already has 10. He's going to strike out an insane amount. Carpenter has 10 as well, which is a lot.
He does that, though.
He does, because he takes so many pitches and he'll take a good amount of strikes. Ozuna has 8. Bader has 6. Like, that's a lot of strikeouts.
This is a lineup that has a tendency to strike out a lot.
And that's the way baseball goes, so I understand it. But they also only have 23 walks.
Right.
So that's really not good. But then I look at it and they get on base at a 309 clip and they're slugging.
Let's blame Jeff Albert and fire him, too.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, be my guess. 440 slug, that translates to a 748 OPS. I don't know. Offensively, I think they're fine. I like how they fought back in those 2 games in Pittsburgh. I think that's great. Pitching-wise, starting rotation.
Below average
So far, but it's interesting because they also had to go against the Brewers, and Christian Yelich is an absolute stud right now. But I'd like to see Michaelis. I was disappointed to see him struggle in his second start, and I'm excited to see what Flaherty does at home. He pitched really well at home last year compared to being on the road, and I think he is going to have a good game. My third concern is Adam Wainwright. I texted you during the game, and I just think he's done. Like, I thought he was done for the past, year and a half.
3 years?
The injuries have just killed him, his arm, his Achilles, and he's just old. Like, he's 37 years old, and he just doesn't have the stuff anymore, the velocity, or even the break on his pitches. And at some point, they're gonna have to make a move and get him out of there, I think. And if that move is bringing Reyes into the starting rotation, I'm all for it.
Or Austin Gomber, who won 4 games for you down the stretch.
Yeah.
It'll be fascinating. Eli, you and I were watching that. I wanted to touch on a little bit bigger baseball than just the Cubs and the Cards, but That Washington-Philadelphia game the other day really caught my attention. Philadelphia, Bryce Harper gets his first game back at Washington and goes 3 for 5. He strikes out the first 2 times against Scherzer, but then he singles, he doubles, and then hits a monster home run. And that feels good for baseball, right? It feels good to have baseball have a villain a little bit and go out and put up a big-time performance. Kind of sends a statement to all of those Nationals fans that were booing him. Like, I felt like that was a perfect moment for baseball. They should have done that on game 1. That should have been the game 1 that they had, but that was really fun to watch a couple days ago.
Yeah, I don't think, we say it's fun to have like a villain. I don't think he's a villain. I think for the most part, a lot of people are fine with him.
Outside of Washington,
fine with liking him. Washington is very not fond of him. I will say one thing. I'm confused, Washington. Why you turn him into this guy that you hate and you boo him. I would have given him applause. I agree this is better for baseball to say, like, hey, I love, when, a team can hate somebody. But I will say, like, Washington, what's the point?
You didn't offer him a good deal.
Yeah, I feel like it's just the culture of baseball fans these days to just boo people.
I don't think it is, though, because most of the time, I think it's Washington.
Yeah,
most of the time, when you think about it,
too.
Guys come back, they're getting applause most
Albert
of the time.
Pujols is going to come back to the St. Louis playing with the Angels, and he's going to get a full standing ovation.
He will get a bigger ovation than David Freese.
Yeah,
but like even think about it. Like,
but that's a totally different case though than Bryce Harper. Like,
is it though? Because he was your
yes,
team.
It is.
No,
is it though? Because he was your team.
Yes, it is.
They're very similar.
Years.
No, it is from the standpoint that Albert won 2 World Series in St. Louis. Bryce didn't win a playoff series.
He was MVP though.
Yeah, Albert won 2 of those.
Yeah,
Albert Pujols also is a significantly better baseball player in his first 10 years.
All right, hang on.
Sure, he's more consistent.
Okay, but this has
that's
nothing.
not the point.
This has nothing. No, the point is the fact that when he goes to the Nationals, he was the Nationals. He's the reason they were good at all. And he was the past couple. He's the reason that they were relevant at all. So it isn't really that different of a situation. Yeah, maybe he didn't go win a World Series, but did St. Louis win a World Series because of Albert Pujols? No. I mean, this is a team game. So at the end of the day, no, we're not going to say they won a series or a World Series because of Albert Pujols.
Because of him.
So yeah, they did not win one because of one player, and that's never how this works. No, they didn't. Okay, go ahead. You want to make a case for how a baseball team can win with one player?
Just say he had 3 homers in a World Series game, which was tied with a couple pretty good legends for that. That was pretty cool.
All right, well, it doesn't matter. You don't win a World Series with one player.
No, I know exactly what you're saying.
That's why it's a very similar situation. That's why it's the same thing.
Also,
because
the fact that Washington's saying how greedy that he is and how he's just in it for the money. That's unbelievable. That's ridiculous. You didn't offer him a good contract, and
he
that's
got
the
a
same
10-year.
thing.
What was it? What did they offer him? 10 years, $300 million.
Yeah, but
he
it was
more
a lot.
than that.
It was a lot deferred of money. It was a ton of deferred money.
They were going to be paying him for a long time. Like the Mets are still paying.
He wasn't going to get the AAV of that. Was not going to be competitive. Like the annual average income. Like it just wouldn't have been. It wouldn't have been competitive. And so, I think the Albert and the Cardinals is a really interesting and fair discussion to have because Pujols took more money to leave, but he's not going to get booed. And that's a very interesting dynamic. Who else is there out there that is going to be the next one that leaves? I don't know because in this season right now, when you have all of these guys signing these extensions, we saw Ronald Acuna.
Chris Bryant.
You think Chris Bryant's leaving? That's your hot take?
Chris Bryant.
I don't know. I think he stays.
A couple weeks ago, you said he was leaving.
I think he'll take the most money. But I think the Cubs are going to give him the most money. I agree he's going to take the most money, but I just think that the Cubs are going to be able to offer him the most money.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a very much extension-oriented baseball right now. And I think that's not necessarily a horrible thing. Like, I know that we talked a couple weeks ago about it and how, like the NBA's offseason is so exciting.
Right.
Because there's guys moving around all the time. In baseball, I don't necessarily know if it's a horrible thing because it's almost like a regional sport, and I think fans get connected to players. Like Isaac, you and I were just kind of joking in here about Albert carrying the Cardinals to a World Series,
right.
And obviously he didn't, but I feel like you and I are Cardinal fans for very similar reasons, and that reason is near the top of the list being Albert Pujols.
Yep, he was number one.
Correct.
Also helped that both of my grandpas were Cardinal fans. I didn't have much of a choice. So.
Correct. Yeah. No, I grew up as a Cardinal fan because of family, but it was really easy to be a huge Cardinal fan because of Albert Pujols, and him leaving sucked, but I think the extension thing may not be the worst thing for baseball. It allows fans to get closer to players, and if there's one thing that's true, it's that Mike Trout is going to go down as the most loved Angel of all time at the end of his career, and I think the same it's going to be said about Bryce Harper now that he's with the Phillies, maybe not, but he's still going to be one of the more loved Nationals, even though he got booed.
I don't know. I think that he's kind of alienated his national stuff after leaving.
I also just don't think he has the most likable personality because of just like who he is. And
I think he's awesome. I think he's freaking great.
See, I'm just not a fan of his. I know I'm in a minority for that, but then he did things like in the home run derby last year, and everyone in Washington was like, this is Babe Ruth. This is the greatest person of all time. This is the greatest baseball player to walk the earth. So I don't know. I don't know who I see leaving next.
I'd take Bryce Harper on my team any day, and if you had an issue with him flipping the bat, that's so ridiculous because that was so cool.
Back. Have you guys seen that? They're bat flipping all over the place in Major League Baseball. I'm a huge fan of it.
Good to be back. We're going to take our final timeout. When we get back, it's time to break down our final four, and we're going to give our predictions that Eli will probably get his right. I will get mine wrong because that's how these things roll for the last, whatever year and a half of this radio show. But we'll be back on WPGU 107.1. Welcome back to Illini Drive. We've talked a lot of Illinois football. We've talked some baseball talked some Cubs and Cardinals, and now we are going to talk about the Final Four. It'll all get started on Saturday. First game of the day is Virginia against Auburn. Plenty of matchups there that gotta like. Or Auburn's going to get it up and down the floor. Virginia wants to slow it down, but they've shown that they can score. Then the second game that I think this is the game I'm really looking forward to the most, in Texas Tech and Michigan State. Two really well-rounded teams that can beat you in a lot of different ways. Texas Tech, the number one defense in the country. Michigan State, though, they've played against some tough teams here recently. They're playing their best basketball of the year. And that Tom Izzo guy, he remembered how to coach again in March. It's so weird because you look at what Michigan State was last year with Jaren Jackson and Miles Bridges on that team, and they get bounced in the second round of the tournament to Syracuse. And then this year with Cassius Winston, Kenny Goins, Xavier Tillman, and they're in the Final Four. And they beat Duke and they beat Zion. So very interested. So let's go around the room. Tati, you want to get involved in this one too and do your predictions for the Final Four? No, you're not doing it.
Not even kind of.
Okay.
I'm so bad at predicting that it's always so
join
wrong.
the club. Join the club. All right, Eli, you look at this one. Let's go Auburn, Virginia first. Who you got?
Auburn, Virginia. I got Virginia. I think that they're going to. It just makes sense for them to win this game. I think that it's so rare that you have a team like Auburn who gets hot at the right time actually end up making it all the way to the tournament finale there. So I think that this is Virginia's game. I also think that Virginia, it's tough for me to take Virginia because of how I haven't loved the style of play that they do all year, but I think that over this Auburn team, I think they're more composed. I think they're more driven than this Auburn team right now as well. And I think that they just have the balanced play style that can get them to the final. Like in the Final Four, a lot of times in these games, sometimes you just need to buckle down and you need to make the right plays. And who do I trust more to make the right plays at the end of the day? I trust Virginia to make the right plays. So for me, that's what will always put it over the top. And so I think Virginia gets their first championship.
Okay, Alec, where are you going?
Yeah, this one's really tough for me. Actually, both of them are tough. I really like Jared Harper and Bryce Brown. I think they might be the best playing backcourt in the country right now. Harper's average like 17.5, Brown 18.2 was my note says. But I really don't feel that great about picking them just because I feel, even though they have the ability to play either style, I think that Tony Bennett's a great coach and he's going to be able to get Virginia ready to go. And if Virginia comes out and hits shots with Kyle Guy, Hunter, and Ty Jerome, I think that they've got a good shot.
I mean, no Okiki, too, for this Auburn team.
Yeah.
I mean, that hurts you.
That
it's so
hurts.
hard to get past it. And even if they did, you have to assume that they would just get killed in the championship. Like, I just can't see them being able to do this without their big men.
I guess I'll go Virginia, but for the same reason as you, Eli, I don't like the way Virginia plays. So
Tell you what, boys.
I didn't pick them to get very far in the first place. I thought they were going out in the Sweet 16 or Elite 8.
I was talking to somebody a couple weeks ago when the bracket first came out, and I go, Virginia's path to the Final Four really isn't that bad. And
Well, it's not. That's why I have them in my Final Four.
Right,
But I still don't love the way that they play.
they've kind of put it together, though, through the
I give a lot of credit
bit.
to Tony Bennett because he added shooters, and that's what he needed.
And Kyle Guy is an elite shooter, maybe the best shooter in the country. And we talk about how brilliant Carson Edwards was, and he
Ryan
was.
Klein would like a
Ryan Klein would like a word. Yeah. All right, give me Ryan Klein and Kyle Guy in a game of horse. That game would go on forever. How many shots do you think they'd hit in a row? There's like ridiculously good white boys. But I think I'm still going with Virginia in this one too for all of the reasons we've talked about. Okiki's really the big one because I think Okiki's the guy that was the most consistent for this team all year. Jared Harper's awesome, right? But there's some times where his turnovers have been a problem for them, and I think this Virginia defense is going to come to play and be able to shut them down. I think Bryce Brown is an interesting name for Auburn. He can do a lot of things, but he's really streaky too. And I think they're going to put DeAndre Hunter on him, and Hunter at 6'7" and 225. That's a lottery pick right there, and his length is going to give Brown a lot of trouble. So if you're Auburn, you got to push the pace, hit a lot of threes, and hope you can stay in it. But I think that Virginia is going to be playing for a championship. All right, let's go to the hard one. Texas Tech and Michigan State. I've wavered on this one back and forth. Eli, what do you got?
I have Michigan State. It's not too tough for me. I think that, yes, this Texas Tech seems really good, but I'm always someone who goes for the better program until I'm proven wrong. And I like to be proven wrong in these situations because I like when there's new programs. I like when there's more, up-and-coming moments. But I usually, I'll go with the better program, and in this situation, I go with Michigan State. Tom Izzo, I think is, we talk about Chris Beard as being, arguably the best coach in the country right now. But the question is, can he, and he will be if he outcoaches Tom Izzo. A guy like Tom Izzo who he's been there, he's done that. He's been in these big moments. He's had great teams. He's been a name that's been on the map for years and years and years. And after he outcoaches Coach K in that last game, it's hard for me to think that he gets outcoached in this game. And that's what really is driving this Michigan State team right now. It is Izzo, and it is how this team is coached, and it's how this team plays as one team together. There's no one guy that stands out. We can talk about, Cassius Winston all we want, talk about how great he is and how well he's played. But at the end of the day, this is not his most talented team. This isn't the best team he's had. He's done a good job getting them together. They play the best as a team together. So I really like Texas Tech. I do. I think they're a lot of fun. I think that they're explosive. They make all the fun and they make the right plays. But and I'd love to be proven wrong, seeing them in the championship. But until I see it, I have to assume that it's going to be Michigan State. I think they make the right plays, and I think they're going to be there. I think it's going to be a Michigan State-Virginia finale.
So these two teams are two of the hottest teams in basketball. Michigan State's won 14 out of the last 15. Texas Tech has won 13 out of the last 14. Who you got?
Yeah, this one's really tough for me for a lot of the same reasons Eli said. Isaac, you mentioned that Tech is the best defense in the country. Not only are they the best defense in the country, Ken Pom has them as the best defense since Ken Pom was a thing in 2001. I'm going to go Michigan State for the same reason that Eli did. I like Tom Izzo a lot, and I like how they are bringing Nick Ward off the bench right now. Yeah. I think that gives them a little something off the bench. And then I think McQuaid's been great all tournament, and if he comes out and hits shots, I think they've got a great shot to win a national title, and I believe in Cassius Winston because he's not playing against Brad Underwood's defense.
Yeah, true. This one, I think I got to go with Texas Tech. I've rode them a lot since the middle of Big 12 play. I thought that they were one of the teams that I really liked the most. And I think the biggest difference comes down to me is who can I trust late in crunch time? And Cassius Winston, you can definitely trust him, but Jarrett Culver's better. And Jarrett Culver's going to be a number 3 draft pick for a reason. And I think that there's going to be a situation late in this game where Jarrett Culver gets an opportunity to win the game, and I think he's going to get a chance to do that, and he's going to do that. Right now, Ken Pom has this game as Michigan State winning 67-66. It's going back and forth, but it comes down to a couple things. One, how does Texas Tech stop Michigan State in transition? Michigan State is so good getting the ball out of the net, pushing it forward, and having their big men run the floor. And two, can Texas Tech shut down Winston? They've shut down good point guards all season long. They played really well defensively, especially down the stretch here. I think that they'll be able to do it because they switch everything. That will really give them a little bit of a hard time. And I don't know if I trust Michigan State's three-point shooters. Aaron Henry is going to have opportunities to knock down some shots. Can he do it? He'll have to do that at a high level. I think another guy that could have a really good game for them is Matt McQuaid because he's going to have a chance to knock some shots down. He's been playing really, really well too. So if Michigan State's hitting their threes and knock some of those down, because they're going to have opportunities against Texas Tech's defense, that will really be the difference. But if they're a little bit cold or if they struggle to get going a little bit, Texas Tech has all the offensive weapons to score right with the best of them. But this is a toss-up. It's going to come right down to the wire. And I think that this game's going to be decided late down the stretch. And give me Jarrett Culver and give me Texas Tech. So, Eli, Michigan State, Virginia for all the marbles. Who you got?
So I think reasonable me wants to say it's going to be Michigan State, but my pick here on the show will be Virginia. I'll turn on most of what I say in the past because I do think that they've.
This is just surprising me more and more every day.
Well, I think that I think they've done a good job proving me wrong, and I always separate my takes so that I really think about it. That's why in my bracket I have them in the championship in this game. I have them in my Final Four, and I always kind of have to look at both sides, and I think that this is a situation where. Reasonably, I want to take Michigan State, but Virginia, the storyline's too good. Sometimes you just have to go with your gut, say that sometimes the storyline wins out. And this is a team that's been waiting for the past 4 or 5 years to finally make their mark. Tony Bennett's been trying to get it done, and I think that if they're going to make it happen, this is the season because they have the right mix of everything they need.
I'm going to go, God, I don't want to make this pick, but I'm going to go Virginia as well. I just don't like the way they play, and that's the reason why I don't like them. But I think Tony Bennett plays a great style for this Final Four. I think he plays a style that allows them to find a way to win, and it's because of the teams that are in the Final Four, not because I think that they're the best team in the country.
Okay, I had Texas Tech going up against Virginia. Give me Texas Tech. I'm going all the way with this team. I gotta stay on brand with my Texas Tech love. So we got to get out of here, but we will be back on Tuesday. We will definitely be fresh off a big time national championship game on Monday night. So we'll break that down with you, Alec. Thanks for joining us. For Eli Schuster and Tati Perry, I'm Isaac Trotter. You're listening to Illini Drive, WPGU 107.1.